You were 8 years old when you became the adult in the room. Not because you wanted to, because someone had to be. Mom was overwhelmed, dad was absent, your siblings were too young, so you stepped up, you handled it, you always handled it, and everyone praised you for it. So mature, so reliable. We don't know what we'd do without you. It felt like love, it felt like maturity, but it wasn't either of those things. It was survival. And it cost you something you didn't even know you were losing. If you were always the responsible one, if you became the person everyone could count on before you even understood what that meant, this video is going to explain something you've probably carried your whole life without having the words for it. Here's what actually happened to you. Psychologists call this instrumental parentification, or role reversal. It's when a child takes on responsibilities that should belong to an adult, not occasionally, but as their default operating mode. And research from the Journal of Family Psychology found something most people don't expect. These children don't just learn responsibility early. They learn that their value is conditional on their usefulness. You became fluent in managing chaos, anticipating needs, solving problems that weren't yours to solve, and your brain interpreted all of that competence as proof that this was your job. Not a temporary situation, your identity. Dr. Lisa M. Hooper, who's researched parentification for over 20 years, describes it this way. These children develop an external locus of self-worth. They don't ask, am I okay? They ask, is everything okay? And if the answer is no, they believe it's their fault. So you learned that your needs come last, that asking for help is a burden, that you're only allowed to exist when you're useful. And now you're an adult who doesn't know how to stop carrying everyone else's weight. Because if you stop, who are you? Let's talk about what this actually looks like in your adult life, because being the responsible one doesn't stay in childhood. It becomes the architecture of how you operate in every relationship, every job, every moment when someone needs something. Monday morning. Your coworker is overwhelmed with a deadline. Before they even finish explaining, you're already mentally reorganizing your day to help them. Not because you want to, because the thought of not helping, of being the person who says, I can't right now, feels like abandoning your entire identity. Thursday night, your friend cancels plans last minute because they're exhausted. You immediately say, no worries, rest up. But when you're exhausted, you show up anyway, because responsible people don't cancel. They don't have bad days. They handle it. That's not generosity. That's a survival pattern that never learned the emergency is over. Research published in the Journal of Child and Family Studies found that adults who experienced instrumental parentification in childhood show significantly higher rates of what's called compulsive self-reliance. You learned that asking for help isn't just uncomfortable. It feels like failure, like proof that you're not who you're supposed to be. And here's the part that makes this particularly exhausting. You're incredibly good at what you do. People rely on you because you deliver, every single time. So from the outside, everything looks fine. You look like someone who's thriving. But underneath that competence, you're running on a system that was never designed for long-term use. Your baseline isn't rest, it's responsibility. And when there's nothing urgent demanding your attention, instead of feeling relief, you feel anxiety. Useless. Like you're failing at something you can't even name. Dr. Salvador Minuchin, who pioneered family systems therapy, calls this functional but frozen. You function at a high level, but you're frozen in a role you took on when you were too young to know you had a choice. And here's what nobody tells you. The reason you became so good at anticipating everyone else's needs is because your own needs were never safe to express. You learned that the way to stay connected, to stay valued, to stay loved was to make yourself indispensable. Not by being yourself, by being useful. So you built your entire sense of worth on a foundation that requires you to never stop performing. And now you're an adult who can't rest without guilt, who can't need without shame, who can't ask without feeling like a burden, because the responsible one doesn't get to have needs, they meet them. So what does this mean for you now? Because you can't unlive the years you spent being the adult in the room. But you can start understanding why you operate the way you do, and more importantly, you can start making different choices. First, your worth is not conditional on your usefulness. I know that sentence probably feels impossible to believe right now, because your entire childhood taught you the opposite. You learned that love comes with conditions, that connection requires performance, that you're only allowed to take up space when you're solving someone else's problem. But that was never true. You were always worthy of care, of rest, of having needs, not because you earned it, but because you existed. The people who should have taught you that failed you. And you've been trying to earn something you already deserved your whole life. Second, saying no is not abandonment. When you were 8 years old and everyone was counting on you, saying no might have meant catastrophe. It might have meant your family falling apart. It might have meant losing the only form of love you knew how to access. But you're not 8 anymore. The people in your life now are not your childhood family. And the word no is not a betrayal. It's a boundary. It's you finally acknowledging that you are not responsible for holding everyone else's life together while yours falls apart. And here's what's hard about this. The people who've gotten used to you always saying yes might not like it when you start saying no. They might call you selfish. They might say you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. You've stopped performing a role that was never supposed to be yours in the first place. Third, rest is not something you have to earn. For people who grew up as the responsible one, rest feels like laziness, like failure, like you're falling behind on some invisible scoreboard that everyone else is watching. But rest is not a reward for productivity. It's a biological necessity that you've been denying yourself since childhood. Your nervous system has been running in crisis mode for so long that it doesn't know what safety feels like. Calm feels like the pause before something goes wrong. Stillness feels like you're forgetting something urgent, but that's not reality. That's just your nervous system still living in the past. You don't have to keep running. The emergency is over. And you were never supposed to be the one holding everything together in the first place. Fourth, you are allowed to need things. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to be the one who's struggling without immediately turning it into an opportunity to prove how strong you are by handling it alone. The people who love you, really love you, don't need you to be useful. They need you to be real. And being real means sometimes you're the one who needs support. Sometimes you're the one who can't handle it. Sometimes you're the one who says, I don't know what to do, and that's not weakness. That's just being human, which is something you were never allowed to be. But here's what nobody tells you about people who were always the responsible one. The skills you built under that pressure are real. The ability to stay calm in crisis. The capacity to see what needs to be done and do it. The emotional intelligence you developed from reading every room you ever entered. Those aren't just survival mechanisms. Those are genuine strengths. You didn't spend all those years being responsible for nothing. You built something extraordinary. The work now isn't to discard what you built. It's to finally build something for yourself. To finally let someone else hold the weight for once. To finally give that kid who carried everything permission to put it down. If you were always the responsible one, and if you became the person everyone relied on before you even knew who you were, you're not broken. You adapted. You survived something that required you to grow up faster than any child should have to. And recognizing that pattern, understanding why you can't rest, why you can't ask, why you can't stop, that's already the beginning of building something different. If this resonated, subscribe. We explore the psychology most people never talk about, and drop a comment. What's been hardest about being the responsible one? Not being able to say no, or feeling guilty when you do? You're not alone in this.